At 11:47 p.m., a phone rang inside an empty apartment. It rang once, then twice, then 4 times in total. No one answered, and by sunrise, the woman who owned that phone was gone. Her name was Mira Kapoor. She was 29 years old, a graphic designer, a daughter, a friend who never forgot birthdays, never missed important calls, and never gave the people who loved her a reason to worry. But on one ordinary day, Mira vanished. No scream, no public fight, no dramatic goodbye, just a trail of tiny moments that, on their own, meant nothing. A phone call she took in private, a drive that made no sense, a gas station stop far from home, and one unfinished text message that may have been the last sign that something was very wrong. It read, "I don't think I should," and then it ended. No second message, no explanation, no trace of what she was trying to say. Somewhere between that unfinished sentence and the final phone call of the night, Mira Kapoor disappeared. And to this day, no one knows exactly what happened in the last 24 hours before she was gone. This is that story. Mira's day began like any other. At 7:12 that morning, her phone was unlocked for the first time. Investigators would later see the usual activity: the weather app, a playlist, a quick scroll through notifications. Nothing unusual. Her roommate would later say Mira seemed normal, maybe a little distracted, maybe a little tired, but nothing that felt alarming. She made coffee. She got dressed. She moved through the apartment the same way she always did. At 8:03 a.m., she sent a text to her mother. Just 3 words. "Call you tonight." A casual message. Routine. Forgettable. The kind of text no one thinks twice about until it becomes one of the last things a person ever says. By 9:15, Mira was at work. Co-workers later told police she seemed focused and prepared. She attended a meeting, discussed a new design project, and even joked that she needed stronger coffee. If something was wrong, no one saw it yet. And that's what makes disappearances like this so unsettling. People expect a warning sign, a breakdown, a fight, a desperate phone call. But real life rarely looks like that. Sometimes the last normal day begins quietly. Sometimes the person who is about to vanish still answers emails, smiles at coworkers, and makes plans for later that evening. Then at 1:40 p.m., something changed. According to phone records, Mira received a call that lasted 2 minutes and 11 seconds. She took it outside. No one heard the conversation. No one knew who was calling. And no one could say for sure what was said. But when she came back inside, people noticed a shift. One co-worker later said she looked pale. Another said she seemed quiet. A third insisted she looked completely fine. And that's the problem with memory. Once something terrible happens, people go back and replay every tiny detail, trying to turn ordinary moments into clues. A pause becomes suspicious. A blank expression becomes fear. A quiet walk down a hallway becomes a warning sign. No one noticed in time. So maybe Mira looked shaken. Maybe she didn't. But one thing is certain. After that phone call, the rest of her day no longer made sense. At 3:30 p.m., Mira told her supervisor she wasn't feeling well and wanted to leave early. That alone wasn't unusual. People leave work sick all the time. But for investigators, it became one of the most important moments in the entire case, because from that point on, Mira's movements become much harder to explain. She left the office in her car. Then, for more than an hour, her timeline goes quiet, until investigators found surveillance footage from a gas station. At 4:52 p.m., Mira's car appears on camera. The location immediately stood out. The gas station was nearly 40 minutes away from her usual route home. It wasn't a stop that made sense. On the footage, Mira gets out of the car, pays in cash, and says almost nothing. But one detail caught investigators' attention right away. In less than 2 minutes, she checks her phone 3 separate times. Not once, 3 times. It looked like someone waiting for a message, or dreading one. Was she meeting someone? Was she lost? Was she afraid? Or had something already happened by then? Police would later call this the last confirmed sighting of Mira Kapoor. And after that, the case becomes a puzzle made of fragments. At 6:14 p.m., a text was sent from Mira's phone to an unknown number. Investigators never recovered the full message. Only one fragment survived in a server log. "I don't think I should." And that was it. No second text. No correction. No explanation. Just an unfinished sentence, cut off in the middle of a thought. And that single line changed everything. Because up until that point, police could still consider ordinary explanations. Maybe Mira needed space. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she had gone somewhere without telling anyone. But this message felt different. It sounded hesitant. It sounded uncertain. It sounded like someone standing at the edge of a decision they didn't feel safe making. "I don't think I should." Should what? Meet someone? Go somewhere? Tell someone the truth? Get in a car? Open a door? Trust the wrong person one last time? That unfinished message would become the most haunting clue in the case. By 8 p.m., Mira's mother tried calling her. No answer. At first, it didn't seem strange. People miss calls all the time. At 9 p.m., Mira's best friend called. Still nothing. Another call came later that night. Again, no answer. And then investigators discovered something even stranger. According to cell tower records, Mira's phone was still moving. That detail matters. If she had gone home and fallen asleep, the phone would likely have stayed in one place. If she had turned it off, the signal would have stopped. But that's not what happened. Instead, the phone kept moving across the city. It traveled east. Then it paused. Then it moved again, not in a straight line, not in a pattern that made sense. And then, at 11:47 p.m., the phone received one last call. It rang 4 times. No one answered. After that, the signal vanished. Not in a way investigators could easily explain. Not with a final goodbye message. Not with a clear location. Just gone. No more calls. No more texts. No more movement. No more trace of Mira Kapoor. It was as if the night had swallowed her whole. When investigators began building the timeline, they had only a few solid facts. A normal morning. A strange phone call at 1:40 p.m. An early exit from work at 3:30. A gas station stop at 4:52, far from her normal route. An unfinished text at 6:14. And a final phone signal at 11:47 p.m. That was it. Everything else had to be built around those 6 moments. Police looked into the unknown number tied to the afternoon call. They examined Mira's work life, her friendships, and her recent relationships. They checked for stress, conflict, hidden plans, and anyone she may have been meeting that night. But the hardest part of cases like this is that disappearances don't always happen inside chaos. Sometimes they happen inside an ordinary life. No dramatic warning. No visible enemy. No obvious reason. And when the person who disappears is private, careful, and living a normal routine, the timeline can become terrifyingly thin. That's exactly what happened here. The more investigators learned about Mira, the more ordinary she seemed. She went to work. She paid her bills. She stayed in touch with family. She had plans for the next week. Nothing about her life suggested that she was about to walk away from it, which left a darker possibility. That whatever happened to Mira happened quickly, and by the time anyone realized something was wrong, she was already gone. There's something investigators often say about disappearance cases. The final hours are rarely dramatic from beginning to end. Instead, they're filled with a strange mix of normal behavior and quiet distress. A person goes to work, answers emails, orders coffee, texts a parent, and somewhere inside that ordinary day, pressure begins to build. A phone call changes their mood. A detour changes their route. A private meeting changes everything. That's what makes Mira's timeline so haunting. Because it doesn't look like the timeline of someone planning a new life. It looks like the timeline of someone reacting to something in real time, something unexpected, something emotional, possibly something dangerous. Think about the pattern. She takes a private phone call and comes back different. She leaves work early. She drives far from home. She keeps checking her phone. Then she sends a message filled with hesitation. I don't think I should. That sentence matters because it suggests conflict, not certainty, not freedom, conflict. It sounds like someone trying to decide whether to go through with something they no longer trusted. And if that's true, then Mira's last 24 hours may not have been random at all. They may have been a slow build toward a meeting, a confrontation, or a decision she was no longer in control of. So here's what we know. Mira Kapoor started her day normally. She texted her mother that morning and promised to call later. She received a mysterious phone call at work. She left early. She was seen at a gas station, far from home. She sent an unfinished text to an unknown number, and just before midnight, her phone received one final call before its signal disappeared forever. Those are the facts. Now here are the questions. Who called her at 1:40 that afternoon? Why did she leave work early? Why was she 40 minutes off her usual route? Who was she texting at 6:14 p.m.? What was she trying to say when she wrote, I don't think I should? And what happened in the 7 missing hours between the gas station stop and the final phone signal of the night? Because somewhere inside those 7 hours, Mira Kapoor vanished. No confirmed witness. No final goodbye. No clear explanation. Just a narrowing timeline, an unfinished sentence, and a phone that rang 4 times in an empty apartment. And maybe that's what makes this case so hard to forget. Not just a mystery, but how normal it all looked at the beginning. A coffee in the morning, a text to her mother, a regular day at work, a promise to call home later that night. Nothing about that day should have ended in silence. And yet, by 11:47 p.m., Mira Kapoor was gone. Maybe the answer was hidden in that 2-minute phone call. Maybe it was in the gas station stop. Maybe it was in the number behind that unfinished text. Or maybe the truth was buried somewhere in those final 7 hours. In one moment, no one noticed, and no camera captured in time. All that remains now is a timeline. A woman who said she'd call home that night. A sentence she never got to finish. And a question no one has been able to answer. What happened in the last 24 hours before she disappeared? If you enjoy true crime stories that dig into the psychology behind the mystery, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because sometimes the smallest detail is the one that changes everything. And in the next case, the truth may be hiding in plain sight.